The story is about Henry Morris, the first ever wizard to draw the 8th circle. He has been poisoned and is now walking while in handcuffs. The current emperor, Silver Jackson Edward, is abusing his power to get rid of his enemies. He is falsely charging them with treason so that he can eliminate them. Henry Morris is now one of his targets. He kneels before the emperor and the official asks him if he admits to treason. Henry stays silent. But when the official mentions his family, he glares at him and tells him to just get it over with. The emperor gets upset and Henry gets sentenced to death. So the executioner, behold, decapitates him. After that, the emperor orders his men to feed Henry's remains to the animals. The scene then switches to a young man. Henry is in that boy's body and he has no idea what's going on. He realizes that he's holding on to a book of necromancy and a dead hen. So he suspects that he is involved in necromancy. Henry looks at the mirror and he can't believe his eyes. He tries to make sense of what is happening. Seeing that he's out of shape, Henry thinks that maybe he's a wizard, so he tries to conjure some magic, but he realizes that he has none. So he struggles to draw the basic first circle of magic. He eventually succeeds. Just then, Henry remembers the time when the emperor forced him to drink poison by threatening a young boy's life. It is then revealed that a wizard's weakness is a fragile body, so poison is very effective against them. He admires the knight's strength and thinks that he could have survived the events if his body was stronger. Henry leaves his room and he sees Koer, his attendant, sleeping in the corner. The guy wakes up and he starts acting rude. So Henry beats him up. Koer bows before him and apologizes. He starts to show respect towards his master. Henry asks him what date it is and the man replies that it's July 6th of the year 20. The day after he was executed. He learns that his name is still Henry Morris and his father is Baron Hans Morris, a war veteran. Henry digs deeper and he discovers that his mother died while giving birth to him. Apparently, he has achieved nothing in the past and so the family members turn their attention towards his younger half-brother Kevin Morris. After that, Henry pulls an all-nighter to practice magic with his body. He succeeds in drawing the 2nd and 3rd circles. The next morning, his attendant brings him some water and he notices that his master is sweating a lot. He leaves the water in the master's room and Henry cleans himself up. After that, he heads to the dining room with his family. They start eating. While eating, he notices that Kevin eats like a pig. So Henry tells him to eat like a gentleman, but he just laughs while his mouth is full. The food from Kevin's mouth mixed up with his food and he lost his appetite. At that moment, Hans asks them who is going to enroll in the Swordsman Academy. Henry considers it, but he thinks it would be better for him to just focus on magic since he wants to get revenge on the emperor as soon as possible. Kevin says he is going to enter the academy because his older brother will just do nothing there. He adds that Henry doesn't even have the guts to spar with him. Hans asks Henry what he thinks about it. Henry changes his mind and decides to enter the academy. He tells his younger brother that he refuses to spar with him because he doesn't want Kevin to look bad. But everyone in the table just laughs at him. They all think he's joking. However, Henry says that he's serious and he challenges his brother to a duel. They head to the training ground. Kevin gives him a wooden sword. Hans states that whoever surrenders first loses. The duel begins and Henry uses his magic to enhance his physical abilities. He charges at Kevin and swings his sword at his brother. Everyone gets surprised and Kevin struggles against him. Henry grabs his brother by the neck and sweeps his leg, causing him to fall. He then strikes Kevin, who is still struggling to get up. Henry keeps hitting Kevin and Hans stops the duel. He tells his father that they will talk tomorrow and he leaves the scene while Kevin is still on the ground shaking. While taking a bath, Henry remarks that his body is not bad. He tries to draw the 4th circle of magic but he fails because he lacks magical power. So he calls out to Koer and orders him to get some herbs. He plans to use them as ingredients to create a magical blue elixir that can enhance his magical powers. However, he reveals that it is risky since it can overstimulate the heart and cause it to explode if taken at the wrong dose. Koer returns with the ingredients. But he wasn't able to find a green crow flower. The merchant tells him that he does not have supplies for that item since a group of bandits are blocking the trade route. He learns that Hans can't get rid of the bandits and he thinks that his father is incompetent. Henry then tells Koer that he is going to the trade route with 2 horses. Koer comments that there are more than 30 bandits. Henry doesn't care. He tells Koer that he's coming along. Later, we see Koer with a skinny horse. He tells his master that it is his personal horse. Henry then asks for a sword among other things that are necessary for survival. He names his skinny horse Jade and casts a spell to make his mount stronger. After that, Koa returns and he is surprised to see the horse in perfect condition. But Henry tells him that it is still the same horse. Koa finds it hard to believe as they leave for the trade route. He puts on some jewelry in an attempt to attract the bandits. They slowly move around so that they will get targeted. During the process, Koa gets scared and suggests retreating. But Henry tells him not to worry. Later, they get surrounded by a group of bandits. Koa starts freaking out and their leader comments on their strange behavior while traveling. He then demands that Henry hand over his valuables if he doesn't want to die. Koa panics and Henry knocks him out. He alights from his horse and the bandit leader orders his men to attack. Henry notes that there are only 25 bandits. The leader calls him crazy. In response, Henry snaps his finger and some blue bubbles appear on the bandits' heads. The bubbles knock them out. The leader falls to the ground and Henry uses fire magic to scare him. After that, he tells the bandits to leave and never return. Koa later regains consciousness. Henry tells him that the bandits all ran away. They return home and Koa puts the jewelry back to where he found them while Henry brings his horse to the stable. Meanwhile, Kevin wakes up. He remembers that his brother beat him in the duel. His mother gets angry and she starts shouting at him. Kevin has a hard time accepting the result of the duel. In the stable, Henry is having a look at the other horses. They are all in good condition. He looks at Jade's stall and it looks embarrassing. After seeing this, Henry tells the stableman to look after the horse and its stall. While having dinner, they talk about the result of the duel. They ask Kevin's mother, Mrs. Morris, about it. But she gets upset and leaves. Hans asks his son how he became such a fine swordsman. Henry replies that he just wanted to teach his brother a lesson. Hans asks him if he wants to enter the academy but Henry thinks Kevin should go instead. His father gets surprised and Henry has a request for him. He asks his father to send Kevin to him whenever Hans has complaints against his brother. Hans agrees. Henry also tells his father that the bandits are gone now. Later, Kevin visits him in his room. He apologizes for his bad behavior. Henry tells him that he has decided to give up the academy. He's going to let his brother go there under one condition. Kevin must give him a green crown flower within 6 days. Although he knows this is a difficult task, he accepts it anyways. Back in the stable, the white horse, Vernon, tries to pick a fight with Jade. Jade gets annoyed and he fights back. The next day, Kevin sees his horse Vernon lying on the floor. He gets angry at the stableman who starts begging for forgiveness. Kevin tells him to get another horse. He looks around and sees Jade. He tries to take the horse but Jade refuses to go with him. The stableman tells him that it belongs to Master Henry. Kevin remembers that the horse used to be so skinny. The stableman suggests that he ride another horse named Holter and he sets off with it. Meanwhile, Henry thinks about strengthening his body. So he goes to the guardhouse to look for Byrne, who is also a sword expert. He finds Byrne in the backyard. Henry asks Byrne to train him with the sword. Byrne happily accepts. He asks Henry if he has learned swordsmanship somewhere else. Henry denies it but Byrne knows about what happened in the duel so he is not convinced. They have a sparring match. Henry attacks his master but Byrne dodges him. He counters with a knee strike but Henry blocks it with his hand. Byrne swings at Henry but he dodges. He launches a counter-attack which Byrne is able to block. Byrne gets serious and he swings at Henry. He is able to block it but the force is so strong that his hand starts trembling. Byrne continues to pressure Henry but all of his attacks get blocked. After that, Byrne comments that he is amazing. Henry claims that he learned his skills by watching other people fight. Byrne reveals that his fighting style is the imperial swordsmanship. Henry states that he needs to improve his stamina. Byrne replies that stamina is important but he needs to improve his footwork. Henry doesn't appear to be convinced so Byrne drops his sword and tells the Henry to attack him. Henry thrusts forward multiple times but he hits nothing but air. After a while, Byrne appears behind him and pokes him at the nape of his neck. They stop and they look at the ground. Their footprints are visible. Byrne points out that Henry's footprints are very irregular compared to his. So they needs to focus on his footwork and his physical strength. Henry spends the rest of the day training. After that, he goes home and writes the name of his targets in his notebook. Then he pulls out a map and marks the location of his hidden treasures. At that moment, Koer enters his room. He tells Henry that Kevin has returned. He goes to meet Kevin but he finds a group of servants outside his brother's room. They tell him that Kevin is in a bad condition. He enters the room and sees Mrs. Morris crying. Mrs. Morris blames him for everything. Henry asks the doctor what happened to his brother. The doctor replies that he was attacked by some wild animals. After hearing this, he tells everyone to leave the room. Kevin tells his brother that he was able to bring home the green crow flower. Henry tells him that he did well and he can go to the academy. Kevin goes to sleep and Henry uses healing magic on him. Thereafter, he leaves the room with the green crow flower. Henry immediately starts working on the magical blue potion. He adjusts the concentration to fit his body so that he will not die after ingesting it. It didn't take long for the potion to be completed. Henry drinks it and he starts to feel like his body is melting. He sits down as he endures the pain. He can feel the strength entering his body. The fourth and fifth circle appears on his chest. This puts him at the same level as the sorcerers. Suddenly, he notices a bad smell. He takes off his shirt and it looks like it hasn't been washed for years. Then he looks in the mirror and discovers that he has become muscular. He notes that he has awakened. Awakening is a phenomenon where one's body evolves to receive more magic. As a result, he has become much stronger. He explains that the smell was caused by the wastes that came out of his body. He is very happy with the result and he cleans himself up the next day. Koer sees him and he is surprised to see that the young master has grown taller than him. He wonders what happened. During breakfast, his family notices that he has grown much bigger. They ask him what happened and he just says that he woke up with that body. He goes to Byrne, who is also shocked. Byrne tells him that they just need to focus on footwork training for now. After that, he goes to the edge of a cliff and jumps down head first. As he was about to hit the ground, he uses the skill feather pull, allowing him to land safely. He tests another skill called shockwave. It causes an explosion and rocks start falling towards Henry. Henry defends himself with the skill called frozen field, which freezes the area around him. He keeps on practicing his magic along with his footwork. After a while, he becomes convinced that he can take on his master. He challenges Byrne and all he needs to do is land a hit within 3 minutes. Byrne warns him that there will be a punishment if he fails. The challenge begins and Henry tries to touch his master. But Byrne evades him. As he reaches out to his master, Byrne grabs his arm and throws him. Undaunted, he gets back up and charges, but he keeps on getting pushed back. The time runs out and he fails. Regardless, Byrne is impressed by his progress. He receives more strength training as punishment. Henry goes home and lies on his bed. He thinks about why he failed and how he can improve. Henry remembers Hector Meyer, who came up with an odd footwork technique. He decides to ask for his help. Wanting to improve, he uses restoration magic on the necromancy book and reads it. The book explains how to call on a specific soul. He needs an item of great sentimental value. So he performs a ritual which causes Scar, the frog-like spirit of trade, to appear. Scar asks him who he is. Henry introduces himself and reminds him about past events. Scar doesn't believe Henry and demands to see some magic. In response, Henry conjures a small dragon with his right hand. The spirit believes him now and he asks for what he wants. Henry states that he needs Hector Meyer's legacy. Scar agrees, but he demands something of equal value in return. Henry promises to tell him how he got resurrected after he receives the legacy. Scar opens his mouth and the king's engagement ring appears. He gives the ring to Henry. After taking the ring, Henry tells him that he was brought back by black magic. He states that the attempt of the necromancer has failed and that he replaced his soul. Henry reveals that his experience was different from that which was written in the necromancy book. Upon hearing this, Scar gets upset. It seems like he expected more from Henry. Scar spits on the ground and then disappears. After that, he puts the ring at the center of the summoning circle and starts chanting gibberish. This causes the door of the netherworld to open and Hector Meyer emerges from it. Hector asks him where he got the ring. Henry lies and tells him that he had it the whole time. He introduces himself and Hector still remembers him. However, Hector isn't convinced that he is the same person as the wizard Henry. Henry explains that he died and he got revived by black magic. He goes on to explain that the world has changed a lot after Hector died. Henry became a hero, but the cruel Emperor Silver had him executed. He adds that the Emperor is just an incompetent tyrant and so he wants revenge. Hector asks why he got summoned and Henry tells him that he wants to learn swordsmanship. Hector reminds him that he's a wizard. Henry replies that his current body has the blood of a knight, so he wants to improve his skills with the sword. Hector wants to know why he's been holding on to his engagement ring. To which he replies that he kept it in his honor. Hector gets flattered. He agrees to teach Henry, but it won't be for free. In exchange, Hector wants to live in the world again. Henry declines because it is a difficult task. He explains that he can't perform revival magic and he only got revived by chance. Hector gets sad because he doesn't want to return to the netherworld. So Henry suggests an alternative. They would seek out necromancers and return Hector to the world as an undead. Hector agrees to this and he puts a curse on the engagement ring as insurance. They begin training immediately. Hector teaches Henry his footwork and it's very different from the one Burn knows. Henry is determined to take Burn down. This concludes part 1 of this recap. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you want to see a part 2 of this recap, write it down on the comments section below. Till next time.